got our pound of flesh. And in so doing, if you talk about how Trump won't forget it, I think you're right. The administration shouldn't. I'm a big believer in accountability. But generally speaking, as Tim Walz, again, heads off into obscurity, he's forgotten pretty well already. And will there be a large public outcry for more Minnesota accountability in a midterm year when we have 500 more important fish to fry? I bet not.
Tim Walz is the face. Tim Walz is the face of Democrat corruption scandal, and I don't think that Republicans are apt to let that go. But meanwhile, let's look at what the Democrats still think is a winning message. I love this headline over at Hot Air. Ed Morrissey points out that Axios had this headline: Democrats wonder whether championing a narco trafficking dictator is a winning message. You think? I mean,
but they're still doing it. But they're continuing to do it.
Mark Kelly, they're all doubling down. Chris Murphy.
We got to think. Okay, you ready to talk about Mark Kelly?
Please.
You know what Hegseth did to him?
Correct.
Okay, so for those who don't know, Mark Kelly, Arizona senator, former astronaut, which will make me love you. But, wow, a lot not to love, especially he and his 5 co-conspirators, all with some degree of military and intelligence experience, putting out a few months ago that nefarious video inciting insubordination in the ranks. Psst, hey, troops, you don't have to do any illegal things that you're asked to do by Trump or the chain of command, right? And providing no examples of what they were actually talking about. It was meant to sow doubt in the minds of our armed forces. It was absolutely seditious behavior. Trump, of course, the first thing out of his mouth was, maybe these people need to be hanged. It's like, okay, ain't nobody going to be hanged. That is one of the penalties for such things. That's not going to happen. But what did happen is Mark Kelly, as a retiree 15 years past his Navy service, he had his rank brought down and his retirement pay brought down. And he was in full throat this morning on NPR talking about, they're trying to silence me. I will not be silenced. Nobody's trying to silence you, you dork. We're essentially delivering accountability for something you did that was sinister.
Well, and they pulled out all the heavy hitters on this particular issue. His wife, Gabby Giffords, took to social media and she said, I was shot 15 years ago.
Yep.
But my husband's heroic, and it's terrible what they're doing to my husband since I was shot. Mark Kelly posted on social media, when my wife was shot, I was serving my country as an astronaut.
All right.
I've been deployed X number of times.
Yes.
I'm a war hero.
Yes.
How dare you? I mean, they're trying to pull out all the stops, Mark.
Yep.
And you know the thing about a war hero? If you go around having to tell people you're a war hero, you ain't a war hero.
Common thread among war heroes is they tend not to beat you down with stories of their war hero status. You're going to make me say something I chose not to post last night. Not because but you never know how things are going to go. So here's the thing. So most important thing, his wife, Gabby Giffords, thank God she's alive. Thank God she didn't die from that bullet. I'm so pleased, and just thank God, thank God, thank God. Her actual attempt to take that bullet and weave from it a Teflon that says you can't argue with me about what my husband has done. Like being shot makes you right about this. What? It was completely off topic and weird. So
it's bizarre. Well, I think it reeks of desperation. It's kind of like the Tim Walz thing. I mean, he says, I'm going to take questions, and then he turns on his heel and leaves. He won't take questions. He looks like he's in a lineup at the police station. I mean, he's guilty, and I really believe that. And incidentally, our buddy Mike Lindell has already said he wants to run for governor in Minnesota as a Republican.
Yep.
He was brought up by Tony DeCopoli yesterday. I heard our buddy Chris DeGaulle this morning call him Tony Docapoli. I don't know if he made that, if that was accidental. It's kind of a hard name to pronounce.
It is. There's some Czechoslovakian lineage there. It's DeCopoli.
And by the way, you know who he's married to? The
Katie
new anchor,
Katie Tour.
Yep. Which big red flag.
but I'll tell you, I watched that first newscast of CBS last night.
I did too.
It was okay. First of all, it was good. What tell me, I don't want to go conspiratorial. What did you think as Tony Dokoupil looked at the screen and said, and I think it went to the Tim Walz story, but the video behind him was Mark Kelly. He had to stop down. It's all live, of course. And he said, okay, we going to Mark Kelly? We doing Tim Walz?
They had a problem. They had a big technical problem.
What's the first thing you thought? Be honest.
Well, what do you mean? Oh, that it was intentional?
Okay, and I'm half kidding. I'm half kidding, but only half. I envisioned a disgruntled staffer in the control room, not happy that non-leftist Barry Weiss is now running CBS News.
There is a backstory. And that's a backstory that not everybody might be aware of. But Barry Weiss was kind of she sort of made her bones as an anti-woke New York Timeser. She left the New York Times on her own accord, saying, you know what, I can't put up with the anti-wokeness. She started something called the Free Press, which has turned into this mammoth Substack sort of online site. Rod Dreher. Rod Dreher's in Dallas, isn't he? Rod Dreher just joined their team. I saw, and he's terrific. But Barry Weiss then was brought into CBS with her anti-woke mentality. And there's been she's the one that had the Erica Kirk town hall. They hated Barry Weiss for that. She's the one that spiked some 60 Minutes reporting. They hate her for that. You're right. I mean, that's not a bad theory.
Their hair is on fire that she's running the place. And it's so weird because for her, she's not a movement conservative. This isn't Sarah Palin running the network. She is simply not a bug-eyed leftist. And to the bug-eyed left, that now makes her a MAGA warrior. It's crazy.
Correct. Hey, I never thought of that. I'm going to go with your theory. I think there was a disgruntled CBS staffer.
It's not because my theory.
Look, I will say this.
I thought maybe.
But I will say this. The reason why it makes a little bit of sense, you rarely see a mistake of that enormity on a network like that. That's something on the Mike Gallagher show. That happens regularly on our show. That's, hey, Christian, you got the video? No, don't have the video yet. Sorry.
Stop it.
We do that.
I watched the content of it, and it was good. It seemed balanced.
Yeah, but you know what the problem? But can I tell you the problem?
What's that?
He is dry as a bone. He's got no personality. He's got no personality. Do we need them all to be carnival barkers? Do we need them all to be? You got to have personality.
A guy you mentioned yesterday. How much personality did Chet Huntley have? Or
you got to have some warmth.
Or John
it ain't 1959. This is 2025. You got to have some warmth. You got to have some personality. You got to have some relatability. This guy, here's my prediction. He ain't going to make the cut. I don't think he's going to make the cut.
What's your over under on him staying in that Anchorage?
1 year. 1 year maybe.
Okay, that's a job. But I think at the end of that year, he will have found himself in his content yesterday. There were stories of Venezuelans pleased at the Trump operation. There was an economic angle where their business lady, whose name escapes me, was talking about how this might bring the price of gas down. And then at the end, when that was all done, he took about 15 or 20 seconds. One of the worst problems with media, you ever have a newscaster or a news network say, we give you the news and why it's important to you. We give you the news and we analyze it. Danger Will Robinson, because their analysis is always from the hard left. Tony Dokoupil looked into the camera and said, look, the big picture here, what might happen is that a lot of bad countries, China, Iran, Russia, et cetera, they may have been expecting a firm foothold in our hemisphere, and now it looks like they're not going to get it. We'll be back in a moment. I went, whoa, what just happened? Whoa, what? I know. I wish him well.
I hope the whole, and it's bigger than him. I mean, look, it's Barry Weiss. And if she's really going to bring an anti-woke perspective to CBS and say, look, let's report on the news and let's shoot right down the middle. Let's go straight down the middle here. We're going to present both sides of issues. We're going to let our viewers decide. What a novel concept.
Wouldn't that be something? Oh, you know who she's got to talk to next? You know who she's got to talk to next is this Margaret Brennan at Face the Nation on Sunday morning.
She's bad.
Did you see her badger Marco Rubio? There's still 4 or 5 members of the regime still there. It's like, hey, we got the one guy. What do you want? Anyway, I'm sorry.
For full shows, live and on demand, it's Salem News Channel.